Today we're going to take a look at the ClearTouch Interactive 6000U series panels. So what we're going to do is start off talking a little bit about the hardware and then also get into some of the software that we include with our 6000 series panels. The first thing to note is that we do manufacture 5 different sizes of the 6000 series, so anywhere from a 55-inch all the way up to an 86-inch panel. And new for the 6000 series, all of these are 4K UHD resolution. But this really makes for a wide selection for the customer to be able to place into the classroom. This right here is our largest one at the 86-inch, but most popular has been the 65 and the 70 and more recently the 75-inch as far as that front of classroom display that we've seen in there. But all of our panels are a full commercial grade unit, so everything has a metal frame on here, a metal chassis. We also have a 4mm tempered glass on the front of here, which is a nice rugged piece of glass, especially if we're putting this in the classroom. And that's also rated for 250 pounds per square inch. The LED behind there is rated for a 30,000 hour life. So especially if we compare this to some of the projectors that schools are starting to replace, you may get 10 or 12,000 hours out of a good projector, and that's of course with a couple bulb replacements, filter cleaning, everything that goes along with that. So we definitely get an extended life when we bump up to this commercial grade LED. Right now I'm actually running off of an internal computer, so all of our sizes of panels have the option for an internal computer. Let me show you this here. And this can come in a couple different sizes and flavors, so we can either have an i5 processor with a standard 8 gigs of RAM, or we can also upgrade that to 16 gigs of RAM, as well as the other version which has an i7 processor which comes standard with that 16 gigs of RAM. This has been upgraded, so all of the USB ports on here are going to be 3.0, and we've also upgraded the pin selector in here to accommodate the 4K resolution on all of our panels. So apart from the internal PC option, we also have an expansion module that we can put into the panels, and this allows for us to do things like our DisplayNote montage application, which is more of a conference room solution where we can have wireless screen sharing with multiple screens to be able to control a meeting space. So think of this as an expansion slot for the ClearTouch panels. All right, so apart from that internal PC, we also have all of your traditional display inputs on the screen. So we have 3 HDMI inputs, one of which is an HDMI 2.0. We also have a true DisplayPort input, so for any of your Dell or maybe HP laptops on there. We've also added VGA and then also a traditional AV input, so for any legacy equipment, DVD players, anything like that. But these inputs allow us to connect a whole range of devices, whether it's Apple TVs or, like I said, DVD players, but we can also connect external computers. So if I have a Windows laptop, a MacBook, even maybe a student's Chromebook, we can connect those. And we've also added a second touch USB input to allow us to connect multiple computers and then easily switch back and forth between those. We've also added a true HDMI output to the 6000 series panels. So this allows me to output any internal source that I have on the panel to an external screen, whether it's maybe a large projector in the cafeteria. And it also allows me to output some of those Android annotations, which we'll get into in just a second. Lastly, I also have a routable RJ45 connector on this panel, so that allows me to have one network drop in the front of the classroom or the conference room, and that will feed a hardwire internet connection to any of the internal sources, whether it's that internal PC or the internal Android, so that way we only need one. We also do have a Wi-Fi module that will slide into the panel, which will provide wireless 2.4 and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi connections to any of those internal inputs as well. Lastly, I would also like to point out the USB ports on the front. We have 3 on the front. One is a USB 3.0. This year, those are also routable. So when I plug in a flash drive, if I'm on the internal PC, it will show up as a source there. But if I switch over to the internal Android system, it will also show up as a source there without having to switch anything. All right, so next we're going to take a look at some of the internal Android features that are on here. So a couple things that we can do with our internal Android. I can use this as kind of the built-in operating system, so I do have a few things that we have built in, one of which is just our EasyNote application. So this is kind of a scaled down version of our Windows program, which we'll show in a little while, but we still have the multi-touch feature. I can still control my pen shape and pen colors. It also does have the ability to do some flip charts, so if I want to start creating slides. I can actually create something on there. But most importantly, this is just an easy way to pull up a quick whiteboard if we need a quick session without having to log into a computer or do anything on there as well. Also on the built-in Android side, I've got a couple of utility features here. I also have a Finder system. So if I do have files saved on the internal storage for the internal Android, or if like I said, if I do have a flash drive plugged in, we can pull up any of our files, maybe a PowerPoint file that we want to pull up really quick, or a Word document, anything like that. We also have the browser, which will allow us to access the internet, and then we also have a ClearTouch store this year. So this is a curated app store, which can also be customized by the school district or the company that we're working with. But as you can see, we've already added hundreds of applications on here, whether it's games or other things like Khan Academy or Kahoot, some of the curriculum software that schools are already familiar with. But this allows for a seamless experience for the end user. They can simply click and download. And that way, and also the school district, like we said, can customize this and add in any specific applications that they need to download. But this also prevents the end user from downloading any number of applications from the Android store which may be dangerous or harmful to the panel and or the network. And also to help your folks get started, we've also included a Get Started link here. And this is going to link to ClearTouch's website page where they can find things like link to our ClearTouch Academy, which is an online LMS program where we can learn all sorts of different things about the ClearTouch panel. But it also has a couple links to some of our software downloads and other things like that, just to help people get started. Lastly, for this internal Android, this also provides us with a floating sidebar that's available anywhere on the panel. So no matter what input I'm on, so maybe I even switch over to maybe an HDMI input, maybe I have again a DVD player or an Apple TV connected. I always have access to my sidebar, and this allows me to do things like annotate. So I can grab my annotation. That's still going to give me that multi-touch annotation as well as my gesture recognition. So if I flatten my hand, I can call up an eraser on there. We also have a highlighter feature as well. So rather than just marking up, we can grab the highlighter. And then lastly, I can save anything that I do. So if I want to save some of the notes that we've taken, it will save both the annotations as well as the image behind the annotations. And then I can upload that to Google Drive or Dropbox or any source that I would like as well. On our sidebar, we also have a couple other tools that we can do. We can also hop back and forth quickly to our note application, which we showed earlier. So maybe we're watching a DVD and I want to switch back to EasyNote and scribble some quick notes. We can do that as well. But we also have a couple tools that are built in down here. Some general tools. We have things like a timer, a stopwatch. One of these is a spotlight tool. So if I want to call attention to anything, and this will work again on any input. So I can have the DVD or Apple TV playing. I have the spotlight tool. And lastly, I also have a quick polling assessment for the class. So I have Air Class on here. So if I want to take the temperature of the room and maybe have the students connect their devices, I can send out a quick couple questions to see where we are in the classroom. And again, that's available on any input on the ClearTouch 6000 series. All right, next we're going to talk about our integrated screen share. This is going to make use of that number you've seen floating around in the top corner there. But this allows us to wirelessly connect any Windows computers, Mac, as well as Android and iOS devices, each of which have a program, a screen share program that will load or an application on the device. So once I get that, I'm going to come over here to my computer and I'm going to type in the code that you see there. All right, and then I'll start sharing my screen. And so that's wirelessly going to send that over there. And this is going to send the video signal as well as carry over that touch signal to the screen. And this also allows us to still use things like our annotation bar that we have on the side here. So I can still pause, annotate over my screen, take a screenshot, do any number of things. All right, and like I said, we can also connect our Android and iOS devices. So from the iPad here, I'll go ahead and launch the Screen Share app, type in that same code again. All right, then we'll go ahead and start the screen sharing. So once we have that there, now you can see I've got the iPad mirrored on the screen there, and that way we can show anything from the iPad wirelessly to the screen. All right, now we'll switch back over to the internal PC and talk about some of the software over there. And a couple things to note about that internal PC. Typically, we'll actually ship that with nothing on it to the school district, which allows them to use their own version of Microsoft with their own licensing. That way they can image this computer just like they would any other computer in the district, allowing for a much easier end user experience where they can log in with their typical district login. Along those same lines, you can also install any software that you normally would on a Windows PC. So anything from curriculum software to a different browser, anything that you have.